I think it's so funny because here's Amy Beth, and I know probably Amy Beth hates the story because I'm always like, Amy Beth is the reason that I'm here, and she gave me my job, and I need a raise, Amy. If you could just work on that, I need a raise. No, just kidding. So, I actually was looking back for emails that I sent, and I found one from 2012. And it's funny because I was like, hey, are you there? And then I looked like later and you were at a different spot. It's so funny. Then it's like I started having these Lance emails. But I'm glad because I have looked up to Amy Beth in my career for a number of years. And now she's grown so far and really has the art of mastery in getting these things done. And as we have watched you grow throughout your career and all of the different spaces you have, this is a great topic for you. And I think all of us, as I heavy sigh, need to know how to manage our time better, because right now it seems like we have so much, but we don't, right? With everything that's going on.
Yeah, that's right. It's interesting times right now. We do, have more time, but it can be challenging to manage it right now because there's just so many uncertainties.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I want to introduce you. She started out as a researcher, and she was able to use that expertise to move on. And now she is a senior manager, technical talent sourcing at Walmart, and is going to help us figure out what to do with the time that we do have and what to do if we have lack in that area. So with that being said, I'm going to kick it over to you, Amy Beth Quin.
Awesome. Thanks, Jackie. Just want to make sure I've got my slides up, right? Everybody can
Yes,
see those?
we
Okay,
can.
perfect. All right, awesome. Thank you for those kind words. Like Jackie said, I'm Amy Beth Quin. I am really excited to share with you today just some of my personal approaches to mastering time management and using resources that you already have access to. So I definitely appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak with you on this topic today. It's an honor to share this groundbreaking experience with the other presenters in the lineup. I hope to have some time at the end for Q&A today. If not, I'll have my contact info up and you are more than welcome to reach out to me directly. All right. Again, just a little bit about me. I'm currently a senior manager for technical talent sourcing with Walmart. I've been working in the talent acquisition space for nearly 2 decades now, in a multitude of capacities as a researcher, as a talent sourcer, a full cycle recruiter, a manager. On the agency side and the corporate side, I was the first editor of SourceCon too, the OG editor. So I have a variety of perspectives to draw from for this topic. Just as a disclaimer, you probably aren't going to be wowed or amazed by any of the resources I have planned to share today. But my hope is that you'll have a better understanding of maybe how to optimally use some of those resources that you already have at your disposal. So without any further ado, I just want to start by acknowledging the way most days feel at this point in time. Whether you're still working or whether you have been affected by furloughs or layoffs, there's just a lot happening in the world right now that's vying for our attention. Time management and mitigating distractions have definitely become challenging even for the most organized people. But I want to give you some hope and encourage you to give yourself some grace. It's okay to feel overwhelmed with everything that's happening in the world right now. Don't give up on yourself. Take a moment to pause if you need a breather, but make sure you pick yourself up and dust yourself off and keep moving forward. My hope is that some of the things we'll cover today will assist you with being able to do this and being able to focus on things that really matter to you, your family, and your companies as well. Another reality facing a lot of us today is flooded inboxes, just tons of emails from resource vendors about tools and services, all making the assumption that we have a lot of work to get through and need some help automating some of these processes. So it's definitely true in many cases, but my encouragement to you at this time is don't make the mistake of spending money on new tools until you explore the capabilities of your existing ones. Any Parks and Rec fans will understand this. Don't treat yourself just yet. Hang on a second and take stock in what you already have at your disposal before pursuing any additional purchases. So let's start with some questions you can think about over the course of this presentation. First, do I know what my objectives and goals are? I don't want to spend a ton of time on this topic today because it could be a presentation in and of itself, but this is a really good place to start in determining if you're managing your time correctly. We'll focus more on the following. Do I know where and how my time is being spent? Am I using the correct resources to accomplish my goals? And am I using those resources correctly? I've only got about 30 minutes today, so we'll go through a couple of common resources and I'll show you some simple ways to use them more optimally. Quick pit stop first on setting some goals. I talked about this in my SourceCon presentation back in March on growing into a leadership role. If you don't currently have some activity-based or results-based goals, I definitely encourage you to develop some for yourself and to start tracking those metrics. The best place to start thinking about those is understanding what your company's or your client's primary goals are in the first place. And once you have an idea of what that is, you'll need to think about what activities you perform in your function that are tied to that goal, and then where your responsibilities in achieving that overall goal actually end. So these will give you a good framework to start building a set of activity or production goals, as well as a set of results-based goals. So let's talk about understanding where you're spending your time. What are some of the more distracting components of life right now? Do you know what resources or tools you're using that bring the best results versus the cool tools or the techniques that give you a good story to tell? And what are some of the things that you can do to mitigate those distractions? Something to keep in mind here is that some of the things distracting you from your work right now aren't necessarily bad things. A lot of times there are little kids that want your attention, or a pet that needs a walk, or a spouse or a significant other that's asking you to spend some time with them. So distractions aren't always a bad thing. You'll just need to factor those important distractions into how you're managing your time appropriately. So to help you down a path of discovery for where you're spending your time, I want to share a resource that I've used called Rescue Time. This is a web and mobile app-based time management tool that tracks activities and the duration of a user's computer usage. You can combine the web-based and the mobile app tracking to get a more holistic understanding of where you're spending your time. And it also allows you to set up goals and view reports and dashboards, and that'll help you to summarize where you're spending your time. This is a free resource. There are paid components, but all of these activities can be done using the free version. I do want to put a disclaimer on this recommendation, as I know there are some companies today, particularly with more people working remotely, that have chosen to use tracking software to keep tabs on their workers. I do not endorse that approach. This is for personal use to help you learn where you're spending your time, because frankly, time can slip away from us really easily when we don't pay attention to how we're using it. So here are some high-level overviews of some of my personal activities. You can see here that I have some goals set for myself, including less than 15 hours in email per week and less than 15 hours per week in actual meetings. Once you do this for a few weeks or even a month, you'll start to see some patterns for yourself on what times of the day might be your most productive, or what time of the day you seem to be kind of distracted. And you can work to build time management approaches to take breaks or capitalize on your most productive periods. I highly recommend checking it out, giving it a try. If you don't like Rescue Time, there's some other options, like there's an app called Hours, that's a manual multitask tracking, and another one called Toggle, spelled Toggl, that has some additional app integrations built in. Alrighty, so let's shift the remaining time to talking resources. Again, Parks and Rec, I'm obviously a fan here. The look on Andy Dwyer's face says it all. And it's how most of us look when we see all the sourcing tools out there. We get super excited about shiny new tools, and we don't really tend to get super excited about things that we're typically given access to on day one, like Microsoft Office or G Suite for people that use Google, instant messaging platforms like Slack or Google Chat or MS Teams. Obviously, we'll have access to an applicant tracking system, potentially a CRM. At the very least, if you're super low budget, you've got a spreadsheet of contacts, and then, of course, the internet and a browser. And I know some of you are probably rolling your eyes, just like Liz Lemon here, and thinking, oh my gosh, are we seriously going to talk about Word docs and Excel spreadsheets? I promise you, you will learn at least one new thing over the next 30-ish minutes on how to better take advantage of some of these resources. Okay. Yeah, so thinking about things this way will really help you to combine steps and reduce clicks. I really believe that less clicks equal more use for any tool. I want to show how you can be more consistent in documentation and be able to pivot more quickly from task to task by using templates. I firmly believe that templates are not evil if you use them the right way and set them up properly. The image here shows what happens when they're not set up properly, and it's pretty yucky. So I would like to start off with a really simple tip that is available in both Outlook and Gmail. So this is ignoring or muting email conversations. We've all probably been exposed to something like this at some point in time. You get an email from a colleague that has been sent to a very large distribution list, and all of a sudden the reply alls start coming in. They clog up your inbox, and you think to yourself, what is wrong with people? A couple of years ago, my husband was subjected to one of these email storms, he called it, and it resulted in 90 emails from reply all responses over the course of just 2 hours. And it got so bad that HR actually had to get involved and threaten discipline for any further responses. I'll share a quick video for both Outlook and Gmail on how you can easily remove this type of distraction. Hopefully there will be sound with this. All right, so we're going with the no sound version today. I'll just talk along with this little video here. You can remove the clutter by selecting a conversation thread, and all you have to do is go to select home and choose ignore. And it's as simple as that. You ignore the conversation. It doesn't delete the emails, but it moves them out of the way, and you can go back and reference them later. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. And so for muting email threads in Gmail, it's actually a little bit easier, I think. So to mute a thread in Gmail, you select the thread, you go to more, and you hit mute, and that's it. Same situation. It doesn't delete the emails. It just moves them out of the way so you're not constantly having to look at them coming in and, you know, reply alls and please take me off this list and all that kind of stuff. So from here on out, I'm actually going to focus on the Microsoft Office suite of tools, since that's what we use at work at Walmart. So for those of you who are Google Apps users, I would definitely encourage you to look into some of the similar capabilities of the things that I'm going to show. So we will start with Outlook Calendar. So Outlook Calendar allows for event organization and coloring so that you can have a visual of where you're spending your time every week. The added benefit to having categories and color coding within your calendar is that you can search and filter calendar events by those categories and really get an idea of how much time you're spending in each different category. So regardless of whether you're a full cycle recruiter or a sourcer, in my opinion, the most critical time block I would encourage you to add to your calendar is for sourcing, because let's face it, if you don't make time deliberately for sourcing, it generally isn't going to happen. Particularly if you're a full cycle recruiter, sourcing tends to be one of those things you do in your spare time, right? Who has that today? And it usually ends up getting occupied with meetings or other items that are deemed more important. So I encourage you to guard your sourcing blocks and make sure people don't schedule over top of those. Otherwise, they generally won't get done. Additionally, lunch or some kind of a stretch break is also important to work into your schedule. Otherwise, you probably won't make time to do that either, or you'll end up sitting at your desk eating lunch. For me personally, if it's not on a calendar, it doesn't get done, and that includes personal items. Just encourage you to be deliberate in what you are putting into your calendar and try to stick to your schedule as best as you can. All right, so let's get started in taking a look at some workflows. I want to share a resource that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, and even fewer people really know how to use this, called QuickParts. QuickParts was introduced to me by a former coworker and friend, Sarah Fleischman, back in, I think it was 2013 at this point. It's a feature within Outlook that allows you to create word block templates. You can use these to template communication throughout a full recruiting workflow, like initial outreach and second touch emails, sending candidate submittals to hiring managers, and even reporting your activity. So as you can see on the screen, I've already got this block of text here. I've highlighted some things, which, by the way, using QuickParts, you can capture the highlights, which is pretty nice. So you're going to grab the text that you want to add. You're going to go to Insert and find QuickParts and scroll down to Save Selection to QuickPart Gallery. You're going to have the opportunity to add a name to it, a key phrase, and we'll come back to that in a second, and then categorize the block of text that you're adding. You can either choose one or create a new one yourself. Once you've done that, you just hit OK. So erasing this block of text, and there's a couple different ways you can add these QuickParts in. You can go directly to QuickParts and select, or you can take that key phrase and start typing it into the body of your email. You'll be prompted to hit enter, and voila, there's your text block right there. And then we can go about filling in some of the personalized components there. That's the purpose for having different parts highlighted. So it's visually in front of you that you need to add a little bit of extra in here. So my candidate that I'm reaching out to here is Jane. She is an engineering director at Groupon, and I'll just add some more stuff in here. All right, and then add my signature, of course. So from here, let's say we want to do a second outreach. We want to follow up with her because she hasn't responded yet. So I can start typing in my message. First, I've actually already captured this QuickParts in here, and I'm going to use the key phrase. So I start writing my email, and then I start typing my key phrase, hit enter when prompted, and there it is. This is a great resource to use for text that you typically use over and over and over again. So we've talked to Jane. We have screened her. She's an awesome candidate. We want to send her to hiring manager. So I have a quick part for hiring manager summary, and I'm going to type in my key phrase, HM summary. When I'm prompted, I'm going to hit enter. And there is my text for my summary. Again, this is more about consistency. It's consistency in how you show up as a partner to your hiring manager, your hiring team, or your TA partners. I can just change what I need to in here, add Jane's name, title, employer, and all this good stuff. As you can see also under some of the pre-populated areas, I have answer selections already in there. So all I'll need to do is go through each of those and say, yes or no. Is this, person eligible to work in the US? Are they open to relocation? Any other opportunities? Blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, we can go up to attach file and attach Jane's resume that she has already sent to us. So again, the consistency component here. So finally, with QuickParts, I want to show how you can use this to do activity updates. Most of us have a responsibility to update our manager or our hiring teams with activities on a weekly basis or some kind of a regular basis. So I have my key phrases weekly summary. And so here's my prompt. And there is my template for doing this. And again, you can set this up however you want. So if you want it to be even simpler than this, you can do that. It's just a great way to capture text that you typically use over and over again, so that, again, less clicks equals more use. Claw back the seconds and the minutes of your day. All right, so another Microsoft Office resource that I personally feel is way underutilized is OneNote. OneNote has some features that will help you to navigate seamlessly through a recruiting workflow by taking advantage of its connectivity to some of the other Office tools. So I've personally used OneNote to capture and share strategy session notes with hiring managers, candidate screen summaries, and also take and share meeting notes. So we'll walk through some of those examples here. I've already got a couple of tabs, and I want to insert a template that I've already created. So I'm going to go to Insert and choose Page Templates. The way that you can create a page template is to set up what you want on the page, and then go to Page Templates and choose Create New Template. I'm going to choose my Rec Strategy Session Notes, and there's everything that I would need that I have already set up to capture a strategy session with a hiring manager. So I can change the title of the page to whatever the rec number is and the title of the role. I'm looking for an engineering director in this case. And then just go through, and this also ensures that I don't forget questions that need to be asked. If anybody's like me, you have a tendency to forget on occasion, what questions need to be asked. This helps to keep you honest with that. So filling in some of this information. I also later, further down this page, have some process information too. So team accountabilities, who do you want in the interview loop? What focus areas do you want? What is our service level agreement for feedback, and so on. So once I've done filling this out, I'm going to go home and click on Email Page. And this is going to give me a new email. It's going to populate the subject line with the title of my page. So there's that consistency component again. And I can also double up and use quick parts here. I have a key phrase for HM strategy that I've created. And this gives me a kind of a header for the information that we just talked about to share with my hiring manager and say, hey, have a look, let me know if there's any edits needed. But essentially, this creates documentation for what we have all agreed to in this partnership. Consistency. So let's look at this through the lens of candidate screens. So we'll go again to Insert and go to Page Templates and choose the one I've already created called Candidate Summary. So this looks exactly the same as the one that I have in Quick Parts. I've already filled out one of these candidate summary pages for my Jane candidate, my engineering director at Groupon. I'm going to attach her resume to this page, and I'll show you why that's important in just a minute. So attach in any place on the page here. And I want to send this to my hiring manager. So I'm going to go back up to Home and go to Email Page. And my candidate's resume is already attached, so that's a few less clicks that I have to worry about. My subject line's already populated. I can, take that quick part I had created before, HM summary, and type in my key phrase, grab all that information, remove the stuff that I've already populated within my OneNote, and just complete some of the personalized components of this. Again, it's consistency in how you show up as a partner. It also saves you a few seconds here and there that will significantly add up over the course of time. So the last component of OneNote that I want to talk about is sharing notes within meetings. So I've got a new meeting. I want to have a calibration conversation with my colleague, Jessica. So I've got this new calendar meeting up here. I'm going to put in the title. I'm going to find Jessica in my contacts. I'm going to put my location. I'm going to drop in an agenda. I think this is an important thing. Make sure that you let people know why you're asking for their valuable time. And then I'm going to look for a date and a time that works with my schedule. The nice thing about Outlook and when you're using Office 365 is you can generally see the calendar availability of people that you invite to a meeting. I can see the time that I chose here is not available for my colleagues, so I'm going to look through a few other date and time combinations to see when we could potentially meet up. So yeah, today looks good, 9:30 a.m. All right, so I've got this. Now I want to take some meeting notes. So I'm going to choose meeting notes from the top there and share notes with the meeting. That's going to give me some selections for the notebook and then the tab that I want to choose. This is the one I have shared with my colleague, and it gives me this link in the meeting that I can click on that will bring me right back to OneNote, and it will start capturing all of the information for the meeting already, gives me that agenda, which is very helpful. Also lets me take attendance so you know who does and doesn't show up for your meetings. And then everybody who has access to that notebook is going to be able to take notes in the agenda. So it removes the burden of one person being the scribe for whatever meetings you have. After the meeting's done, you can again go back to email page. It automatically puts the folks that were part of the meeting into the two fields. You can recap in the subject line, and there you have it. Again, just saving seconds here and there, clicks here and there. They add up over the course of time and make things really, really streamlined. So Excel. Most people in TA don't really understand the sheer awesomeness of Excel. Let's walk through some really simple ways to customize an Excel spreadsheet. This might be particularly helpful if you're working on a low budget. Maybe you don't have a CRM, or maybe your existing tools don't really have great ways to generate reports for sourcing or recruiting activity. So I have a spreadsheet set up here already, and I've got some columns set up, and as I scroll through here, I notice that my column headers are disappearing. So the first thing I want to do is pin them to the top and make them filterable. I'm going to highlight the row. I'm going to go up to the top and choose View, and I'm going to hit Freeze Top Row. That's going to freeze that header row there. I'm going to go to Data, and I'm going to choose Filter, and that will allow me to filter things within each of the columns. So another cool thing here is I've got a drop-down menu for choices of current step. How do you create this? This is a pretty cool feature. So I add a new tab and I list out what I want for my menu selections. And then you can go back to your sheet and choose an empty cell, and you're going to go to Data Validation. From there, under Allow, you'll choose List, and then in Source, click your mouse into Source, and then you're going to highlight your menu selections. Hit OK, and there you have your drop-down menu, and you can expand this through multiple cells by clicking the bottom right corner and dragging it, or a cooler thing to do is to create an actual table out of your spreadsheet tab there. So the way to do that is to go to Insert at the top and choose Table. It's going to highlight the stuff that should already exist in your spreadsheet. You can check My Table Has Headers if you do, and then hit OK once you've confirmed that. It's going to change the look of your spreadsheet just a little bit. We'll want to label this table for future use. I'm going to call this Candidates. And as you can see here, we've got a new row, and it just expanded the table. So I'm going to start entering in some information on this new candidate that I am pursuing for Marcus Manager's requisition. And there is my drop-down menu. So I don't have to recreate that, and I don't have to reformat every single row. It's pretty awesome. All right, so from here, there's some other cool stuff that you can do with the table. When you're working within the table, you'll have that option up there that says Table Design. You can add or omit the header row if you want to by checking that off. You can change the color of the bands if you like something different from blue. I'm going to choose green here. And you can also insert a slicer, which is pretty awesome. So I'm going to choose a slicer here that will allow me to filter to TA partner. It's another way to filter. I like it better than filter. It's just more visually appealing to me. And it's good to drag that to the top of your table and to pin it up there too. Otherwise, this kind of stuff can happen from time to time. but pretty neat to be able to insert filters here. Let's move on to creating a pivot table though. So to create a pivot table from this data, you're going to hit Insert while working within the table and then select Pivot Table. You see it grabs your actual table name. We're going to create this in a new worksheet and hit OK. First thing I want to do is to relabel the tab for this pivot table so that I know what I'm looking at. So I'm going to right mouse click, hit rename, and call this one Activity Pivot. And from here, I want to add different components to my table. I want to look at overall totals by requisition here. So I'm going to drag requisition to rows, and I want to see total number of screens, total number of submits, and total number of hires, total number of accepts for these particular requisitions. I'm dragging those into value, and you'll have options when you add things there to, sum numbers or to count numbers and a variety of other things. We're going to go with count. So this is going to tell us how many for each of these requisitions, how many were screened, how many were submitted, and how many of those were accepted to move forward, as well as the full total. From here, you can do some filtering. So we'll filter by TA partner again. And that adds a filter to the top. You can filter by one or multiple items if you want to do that. But again, I personally like the visualization of the slicer. So I'm going to remove this filter and I'm going to do this as a slicer instead. So you're going to select Pivot Table Analyze from the top and insert slicer. I'll pick TA partner here, and there's our slicer here. It's pretty nice. Now, what if I want to look at a different view of this, but I don't want to lose this one? I'm going to name this pivot table. I'm going to call it by rec, but I also want to see this by hiring manager. So I'm going to highlight this whole table. I'm going to right mouse and copy, and then I'm going to paste it elsewhere in my tab. So this basically creates a copy of this pivot table. I'm going to go back to Pivot Table Analyze and rename this. I'm going to do this one by hiring manager. So I'll call this by HM, and then I'm going to go make the adjustments in the rows for the information that I'm looking for. Instead of requisition number, I'm going to drag hiring manager down there. Now, because I have this slicer already up here, I'm going to right mouse click over this and go to report connections. That slicer is going to work on both of these tables. Pretty awesome. So if I choose Robbie Recruiter, I can see what his work looks like per hiring manager as well as per requisition. So that's a pretty nice little feature here. I also want to take a look at my quality metrics. So this is a great way to demonstrate how to do formulas. I want to look at my screen to submit conversion, and I also want to look at my submit to accept conversion. This is quality stuff to let you know if you're finding the right types of people. So getting this set up, and then we'll do a quick little formula here. So when in the cell, you're going to hit an equal sign, which starts your formula, and then you're just going to click into the cell for the top of the calculation, hit the division sign, and then hit the next cell that you want to include. So for here, count of accept goes on top, divided by count of submit. You can adjust these and make them look like percentages by clicking on that little percentage sign. And there's our quality metrics. And now we can slice and look at the difference in the quality metrics between each person that is listed here. Pretty cool. Great way to keep track of your work. The last thing I want to show you is a timeline slicer, which is pretty amazing. If you have dates in your raw data, you can use insert timeline. I'm going to choose submit, because I want to see how many people maybe I've submitted over the course of a week or a month or a quarter. We'll go with months for this because I've got May and June listed here. So I can take a look at the difference in overall submittals, and then you see it also adjusts the screen submit and the submit accept quality metrics that we created a formula for. So again, just really simple ways to capture your activity as well as your results and your quality for your own personal use, but also for use of sharing with hiring managers and your personal manager. All right, I know we're going pretty fast through this stuff. If you want some more Matt Craven recently created a 3-part video series on making data-driven decisions in TA that I highly recommend checking out. Matt is a fantastic contributor to our greater TA community based out of the Portland area. So go check out his 3-part series there if you want some more. All right, so all of this to say, again, just productivity metrics are really your key to improvement and growth. You have to identify what your success looks like and then keep an eye on how you're doing against it. So by optimizing the way you use your existing resources like Excel, this is completely doable. Monitoring your productivity and results can be used to just help you be a more trusted advisor, a consultative partner to your hiring managers, as well as your teammates and your business partners. Plus, you are going to look smarter to people when you show up to meetings with data to share and be able to back up your recommendations on how to make adjustments. So I could talk for hours about time management, but in the interest of time today, I just want to share a few additional recommendations for things like calendar auto scheduling plugins, instant messaging, collaboration environments, and if you're trying to connect everything with applets and functions that will automate components of your workflow. I will put a plug in at this time for MS Teams. If you want to talk more in depth about Teams, please get in touch with me. It's been an absolute game changer for my team at Walmart. So let's recap some of the questions that I had asked you to keep in mind at the beginning of the presentation. First you have to know what your goals and objectives are. And if you don't currently have any, then start making some for yourself. Put some effort into really understanding where and how you spend your time. And once you have a handle on that, incorporate efficient use of your time into your goals. And learn what resources you already have access to and work toward understanding if you're using them properly and optimally and how they can help you to work towards accomplishing those goals. Put some genuine effort into learning more advanced use cases of your existing resources. Just really go beyond the surface and dig into some of the advanced features, do some test and learn activities. And if you still find that you're lacking necessary resources, then you have the information that you need to make a well-educated case for investment in additional tools so that you can do your job well. I hope that you've each learned at least one new thing in the last 30-ish minutes. Even if it's super simple, I hope it'll save you 1 or 2 clicks, which will add up over the course of time. I love talking about this kind of stuff, so please reach out to me directly if you want to continue the conversation. So I think thanks for your attention, and I think we've got a little bit of time for some Q&A now. I think I'm just waiting for Jackie at this point.
Hey, Amybeth, this is Ashley.
Hi.
Hey, I'm going to fill in for Jackie for just a second. We have a couple of questions for you, and then she's going to bring her face back in here and do a much better job of moderating.
Sure.
Oh, it sounds like Ryan's here too. Okay, I have some questions for you. Are you ready for them?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Okay, so Amy asks, if you have no budget, but your company finally said, okay, you can get one tool, what would you get? I'm an internal recruiter for our family of 9 tech companies. I am solo so I source and do all of the recruiting myself.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that is a loaded question because it really depends on, it depends on what you're focusing on. It depends on the volume of requisitions that you're working with and the specific industries that you're operating in. I personally have become such a huge fan of ZapInfo. The thing that I like most about ZapInfo is it's platform agnostic. There are so many different places where you can go and scrape information. To me, it's a really great tie into the less clicks equals more use, kind of mentality. So that would be one that I would invest in myself.
Cool. Thank you so much. Let me see here. Okay, so Amy, if you have anything else to add, or if you need any additional information, just hit us up and we'll send it over to Amy. We also have, would there be anything like quick parts for Google Gmail adepts that you're
I
aware of?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I have not explored that because in the last decade, I have not worked for a company that used G Suite as opposed to the Office suite of tools. I know that there are things out there. A lot of times they may be plugins that you have to download, but I can't recommend anything because I haven't personally used any of them.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Sergio asks, love automating and utilizing tools. Some of the tools that we use at work are constantly changing, ATS, LinkedIn, etc. Keeping up with the changes becomes a job in itself. Any suggestions on keeping up with the must-know changes? So do you have any good resources there for him?
As nerdy as it sounds, if you keep up with kind of the developer websites for the different tools that you use, they will share updates for new stuff that they ship. So you'll get up-to-date information on things that are changing within your specific resources. But again, that ties back to poking around and testing different things and understanding all of the complexities around the resources that you're using, because you'll notice those things quicker and you'll think, oh, the developers must have made some changes. Let me go to their update site and see what they are.
Cool, cool. Well, thank you. All right. So we have a couple more. Are you cool with hanging around for a few extra questions?
Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You shared a OneNote template. Lisa would like to know if that is available for the audience, if you might be willing to share that with everybody. It's cool
Um,
to say no.
I would be happy to put that up. If you know what, let me back my slide up here and I will put my contact info. If you're interested in a template, I actually have a shared folder, my open sourcer folder, and I'd be more than happy to share that so that you can have it.
Oh, you are awesome. Thank you so much.
I'm
And
taking
if
pages
you,
from the next presenter, Maisha. She's a fantastic with her swag bag, so I took a page from her playbook for that.
she's gonna love that. She's gonna love that. So, okay, cool. And another question from Paige. Do you use Insights? It's an analytics tool, and she saw it on your Outlook screen. So, I think she's curious about how you use Insights.
Um, Oh, we're talking about within Outlook. Okay, I'm thinking a different resource. I haven't dug into that just yet. My understanding of Outlook Insights is it analyzes how you're spending your time. Because I have used Rescue Time more, I'm more familiar with that resource. But I've gotten a few emails over the last couple of months from Insights saying it looks like you have a lot of meetings today. Do you want to add some break time into your calendar? And I'm like, oh, that's pretty interesting. So that would be another great resource to explore if you're using Outlook.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And let me grab Ryan here. We're getting Jackie back in for you. We had a little bit of a bump. So.
That's all right. I had no internet up until about an hour before this, so you just make do, right?
That's right. These things always seem to happen. All right. Let me see if we have any extra questions that have been added while we're waiting for Jackie to come back in.
Okay.
What ATS do you use at Walmart?
Um, we have used several. We uh, we have used Brass Ring.
Brass Ring.
Hmm.
Nice. And is there a quick parts workaround? Oh, we've
If
had an
I
addition to. Oh, sorry. Go
Okay.
ahead.
If you're talking about so maybe like an alternative to quick parts, I know a lot of people use email signatures to do a lot of the same things that I was showing in quick parts. It's really a personal preference, but it's, you know, it's like making use of those resources that maybe isn't what they were exactly intended for, but figuring out how to make it work to your advantage. Some people use signature to capture text blocks. I like quick parts because it allows you to use kind of that key phrase to write a little bit of stuff and then insert a phrase that you use regularly and write a little bit more stuff and add in some more key phrases and quick part text blocks. So it's personal preference in that.